It's family day.
Family show. All right, what is up, everybody,
Yeah.
and welcome back to another episode of the Poker News podcast. We are coming to you live on the very first day of July. I am your host, Sarah Herring, joined by Jeff Platt, and yeah, we're creeping up here. When I see that we are actually in July, I know that we are close to the main event.
We are close to the main event, day 1A on Wednesday, day 1B on Thursday, day 1C on Friday, and this year for the main event, you can also register at the very beginning of day 2. So you have the opportunity to register on day 2AB, which is Saturday, and day 2C, which is Sunday, which is pretty crazy change this year, expecting just a massive turnout. The World Series sent out a press release that they've already eclipsed their attendance record with still, 25 events left to go.
Wow, really?
They have more attendance this year than the first 36 years of the World Series combined. So just imagine what we're setting up for with the 2019 main event. Just going to be a sick one. This could do it, right? This could break the record. The 2006 main had 8,900 players or so. I think this could get over it. This could get 9K.
Wow, that will be so,
You're in shock. Yeah.
So sick. And I really did think, because it's been getting smaller and smaller, or for a lot of years that I was doing this, it was getting smaller and smaller, and then the last few years it's been getting bigger, and I'm thinking, all right, well, let's get it. And let's be honest, with the attendance in those low buy-in events, I think it's very clear, also what we've spoken about in terms of poker not being dead. But how much do you think, if at all, it does change things to offer that day 2 buy-in?
It's a really good question. I'm just not sure. I mean, I know it's got to be appealing to some, businessmen or amateurs, right? That they don't have to come in town for a day 1. That means they don't have to take a day off in between day 1 and day 2. You can come at the last minute. I spoke to somebody who's a family friend, and once I told him he could register at the beginning of day 2, it was that was the difference for him. He's like, okay, now I'm going to come. So
wow.
I don't have to be there for day 1 and the day off. I can just get there day 2C and just get going. So I think it'll help. It's definitely going to provide a boost. I'm not sure, how much I personally like it. I don't know if you should, for the main event of the World Series of Poker, it's not as bad as throwing a re-entry in there or something, but I think you should have to play at least a couple levels on day 1, right? Or is that too much of a purist take for this tournament?
I'm fully with you, and it's just such a grind, and it's just so long, and I feel like
that's
part of the whole thing. Yeah. But tell me this, how many so I can see how, say, for a businessman or for whomever, for someone who might just have the budget to be able to fire 10K but doesn't have the time to spend 10 days in Vegas, how many pros do you think are going to see the value because of how great the structure is?
Yeah, that's a good question also. I think we'll see a decent amount of pros come in, but a ton of pros also see the value in day 1 of the main event, where usually your starting table is full of mostly amateurs. So I think plenty of pros will see an opportunity there to run it up a little bit. Now, plenty of other pros are hey, I can just play high stakes cash instead for a week, or go play some more high rollers at Aria and come in at the last minute on day 2. And by the way, last minute is still 60K in chips at the 400, 800 level.
Wow.
So you still have 70 bigs to start day 2, so that's not a terrible time to buy into this tournament.
Wow, so sick. All right, well, you're at the Rio. I'm still not going to be there again until Saturday. You're there doing a broadcast today. What's happening today? What can people tune into?
Yeah, today we have the 10K PLO8 Championship final table that is available on CBS All Access, and our chip leader, straight out of the broadcast booth from the 50K into the 10K PLO8, is one Nick Shulman. So Nick Shulman in the mix at the final table. We have Joe Hashem there, Brian Hastings. So it should be an absolutely stacked final table. I'm going to be honest with you, Sarah. I know absolutely nothing about PLO8, but maybe I can pretend a little bit in these interviews and sideline reports. Chris Vitch is also there. Chris Vitch is awesome. I love that guy. So I'm excited for this one.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. That's going to be huge. That's going to be epic for sure. And what's up, Aaliyah? Welcome.
Yeah.
I think everybody loves to see Shulman. I mean, everybody loves to see someone, who's playing both sides of the fence, if you will. That's the worst expression. But yeah, and I think Brian Hastings has had a great summer so far. He's definitely someone that people were considering, before the summer started, to win another bracelet in his already gigantic collection. But let's talk a little bit about, so in terms of players who have won a bracelet so far in the last few days since we've spoken, 50K Poker Players Championship. This was the one we were all talking about. This is what was at a final table when we left you guys last on Friday. Phillip Hui. I think actually this was not that. I mean, I think he was definitely one of the players where people were saying this could be his.
Yeah, I think so. And he's a guy, and you'll hear from him in a little bit, but he's a guy who just put in so much work on his game. I'd say his game, but his games. Like, he really put in work on his No Limit Hold'em game. He's dating Lonnie Harwood, who is a No Limit Hold'em circuit crusher, but he also put in the time in the mixed games tournament. So I was talking with our guy Tony Burns from Seminole Hard Rock, and Tony was saying that Phil comes there all the time and fires off on these mixed games tournaments and the $200, $300 buy-ins, but it's strictly to work on his game. And to take down this tournament, imagine what that means to a mixed games player. I mean, it's not just the money. The money's awesome because he won about $1.1 million. But to defeat a field of 74, and it is very hard to find a soft spot in that entire 74. Case in point, Phil Ivey entered day 4 as the chip leader. Case in point, you had to beat Josh Aria heads up. Bryce Yaki was at the final table. Sean Deeb, Jungle Man was there. I mean, just an incredible performance by Phil. Should we just jump to the sound right now? Should we toss it to the man?
I think why not? Let's just get after it.
Okay, here he is after his World Series of Poker bracelet victory in the PPC.
Well, I, for one, have heard only great things. In fact, I can remember when the field was down to maybe 20 or something like that, seeing on Twitter all these players saying that they wish they never even came to the Worlds, like sick players saying they should have just never come this year and they should have just invested as much as they could in Phillip Hui and that they would have been happier with their summer. So a huge congrats to him, and obviously well deserved.
And I think, Sarah, from that tournament, we also have to mention, because I'm sure everybody saw it on Twitter if they weren't watching it live, but Bryce Yaki and Deuce to 7 triple draw suffered like one of the worst beats. I smile because we have podcast fan Ben Ludlow who just had to see like a live showing of the podcast. He's so fired up for this 1K mini main event today, Sarah. You can come get in the shot for like 2.5 seconds. There he is.
Morning, Sarah.
All right, we'll see you later. He's so fired up for this 1K mini main event. He shows up like an hour early.
You gotta be ready, and you don't want to get that bad parking spot. You know what I mean? You get there too late. You're parking in Timbuktu.
Right. So in the Deuce to 7 triple draw, Yaki was dealt what they call a pat number 2 as the second best hand possible. That is, I think I'm obviously not a Deuce to 7 triple draw player, and somebody in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's a 7-6 4-3 deuce, right? That sounds right. So the only thing that beats him would be a 7-5 4-3 deuce. That would be the wheel in Deuce to 7 triple draw. Josh Aria started with like 5-3 deuce ace queen. So he sends in the ace queen. Long story short, he eventually draws a 6 for a 6-5 4-3 deuce. You can't have a straight in Deuce to 7 triple draw. So he has to turn in the 6 as well, and he does draw that 7. So he was like a 0.3% chance to come in with that wheel when Yaki had a pat number 2 and Aria was able to find it. That will go down, and I know it's a little different comparing triple draw to No Limit Texas Hold'em, but that will definitely go down as one of the worst beats, if not the worst beat in televised/streamed poker history. And the way Bryce handled it, I mean, he went crazy at the moment, but like he talked to me afterwards and he was pretty calm, cool, and collected. He was a little shocked, but like I'm really impressed and I admire the way he handled such a sick beat at the 50K Poker Players Championship final table. That was pretty cool.
I mean, for sure, especially when in terms of getting to that spot, even the best players are often not going to be the last ones standing in the final table, and so it's just devastating when you get there and get that close, and it's like, not this time, buddy, not today.
Nope, not today, just not meant to be. And then he goes deep in the 10K PLO8, he jumped right into it, and I think he finished 8th. So
Yeah.
man, that's an incredible back-to-back performance for sure.
Fire. And you have to be able to you have to be composed and not be worried about it and not be butthurt about it in order to jump into a tournament like that. And let's just say it, Jeff, you have to be composed, cool, calm, and collected to do an interview after someone.
Absolutely.
You too. Were you embarrassed that you had to go talk to
Well,
them?
no, the most awkward things here about these interviews is usually they'll come off set and then I'll ask them to do the interview, but play is underway, and so the broadcast doesn't really want to miss a hand, so I have to wait by them until the hand is over, which when we run bad, which we have run bad, it's like 3 or 4 minutes of just standing there. I mean, when Jungle busted, that was a perfect example. Jungle busted to start the 50K. I grab him for a quick sec, and then we're just standing there for 3 or 4 minutes. And, it's me and Jungle Man, and just, it's like, what do you say to somebody who just busted the 50K? I mean, Jungle Man is probably a little different story because the money maybe doesn't mean that much to him. But, I've been in the most awkward spots with people with some life-changing money on the line, and just kind of like, well,
okay, cool.
Good run. And
you're like, okay, cool, we're
yeah, I'm like, we're
you're
ready.
Not
we're
even
still
saying anything. Like, you're just like, oh yeah, oh that's great, cool. We're doing that. Okay, dude, that's like a Saturday Night Live episode. Like, just putting you for 5 minutes in the worst moment ever while that person just begs to be let free. Man,
it really is. But Bryce was great. And really, I've had no complaints of sorts. I think everybody's been really classy afterwards.
Well, let's talk a little bit about classy guy, Anthony Zinno.
Oh, just Mr. Class.
I love
just
Anthony Zinno.
Resonates.
I was so happy to see this. And I feel, okay, first of all, he must have got his hair did before the final table because he was looking very sharp and classy. He looks perfect. But this is one of the players that we were talking about at the beginning of the summer that doesn't have a bracelet, that is due for a bracelet and has been for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, but he does have one. He did have one going into this summer.
What?
But it's not a terrible storyline, so you can keep going with it.
Oh, thank you. Okay. What was it last year? The year before that?
No, I think he won. Didn't he win the 25K PLO high roller? I'm not sure when that was, but this is his second bracelet. The 1500 PLO8. That's
so lame. Well, there was a summer that I had him to be a person who hadn't won a bracelet yet to win the bracelet, and he didn't win it that year. So clearly, sometime between now and maybe 4 or 5 years ago, he got the bracelet. But still, I just love to see him being successful out there and crushing. He's one of my favorites.
One of the nicest guys in the game, right? It'd be hard to come up with people who are nicer than Anthony Zinno. He's got great dress shirts too. I feel like they're custom tailored. He's got the cool shades that he rocks some of the time. He said he's really been working on his Pot Limit Omaha 8 or better game, which is becoming more and more popular. So it makes sense to put more and more work into it. And to win that, it's just happy for the guy.
Absolutely. And this is on Friday. We were talking about Eric Seidel with a chip lead, I want to say, in this event, and he ended up busting in 9th, which it's another one of those situations where, it's so easy to end up in 9th, but to take home 20K is one thing, to take home a little less than 300,000 is a totally different thing. And man, I don't know. I'm glad I'm not a poker player. That's all I
Well, that makes or breaks your summer, right? Those moments. I mean, a lot of the pros who are firing they're going to have a deep run or so, and the difference between, like you said, 9th and 1st is the game changer for the summer.
So we spoke on Friday about essentially Razz being one of those tournaments where players come in having never played before and somehow manage to win a bracelet. But in this spot, we've got Scott Seiver winning the 10K Razz Championship. Yeah. Clearly not one of those players that's never played or doesn't know what's going on before his third bracelet for a little more than 300K. And this is what I don't understand. When I used to, in covering the live tournament circuit, I used to see Scott Seiver all the time, everywhere. PCA, Germany, Spain, London, everywhere I was going, he was there and he was firing all the mains, all the high rollers. I never see him anymore. and then he comes and just ships a bracelet. But I'm like, where have you
right.
been, Scott? What are you doing?
Yeah, it's like every time we do see him, it's because he's deep in an event. But like, I think he's just devoted a lot more of his attention to high stakes cash during the summer when supposedly the games are good in Bobby's room. I think this summer we've maybe seen him a little more than we usually do. It at least seems like he's firing all of the 10Ks. And so to win that 10K Razz, you said it, in just another stacked field with Chris Ferguson and Dan Zach and Daniel Negreanu and Andre Akari and David Bach. I mean, you know, that 10K Razz field is a strong field of 116 players. So again, you know, keep handing out props to Seiver because he's one of the best all-around players in the game for sure. Bracelet number 3, not too shabby.
Well, I think that walks us right into actually something we touched on a little bit on Friday, was the Player of the Year. Just seeing Dan Zach's name in the final table here of the 10K Razz makes me think, okay, it's time for us to take a quick peek at what's going on the Player of the Year, especially as we're getting closer and closer to the end. It's time.
I think it is. And like, look at how tight it is at the top of the leaderboard, right? It feels like, I don't know, you could make a case for the top 20 guys who still have a shot at it. It's really close at the top. Daniel Zach, Phil Hui, Sean Deeb, Scott Clements, Jason Gooch, the online guy, Anthony Zinno, Upeshka De Silva, Robert Campbell, Daniel Strelitz, and Ari Engel. But some of these guys in the 11 to 20 range, Daniel Negreanu included, since we know he's going to fire all, still have a real shot at it. Zach leads Phil by 90 points, which is basically nothing. So again, we said it, even though the main's coming up this week, we still have 20 or 25 events. We still have events like the 10K 6 max. Yeah, right. That's so weird. The 10K 6 max coming up. We have that 50K high roller at the end. There's still a lot of poker left to be played. So I feel like a lot of players are still in the hunt for this one.
Well, this is interesting because in the top 10, we have Jason Gooch, who we spoke about in the online world, and also Upeshka De Silva, who did final table at 3K6 Max, but his only bracelet this summer was in an online event. So It's interesting to see in the top 10 2 players in an online event, and I can remember even a few summers ago when they introduced the online bracelet, there was some questions as to whether or not even, you know, it was okay to have an online bracelet. And now it seems like the online bracelets are having an impact even on the Player of the Year. I'm curious what you think about that and how you think players would react to that.
Yeah, so I think it's a nice complementary piece to the Player of the Year standings, right? Like, I think it's important to grow the presence of online poker in the U.S., which the WSOP is doing by having players in both Nevada and New Jersey be able to play. I'm not sure how I would feel if, like, let's say, for example, Gooch wins the $3,200 high roller online and he moves to the top of the leaderboard and he wins Player of the Year without playing any live events. You know, I just think that'd be a little strange. But as like just a complimentary piece to it all, I really like it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because we sort of what you mentioned in that I think the United States has been so separate from online poker in so long that I kind of see including it or integrating it as something that adds an interesting element. I, for one, kind of would maybe I'm just doing devil's advocate, which is like so standard Sarah Herring move.
Yeah, true.
I also feel it's interesting because I think the idea of the World Series of Poker Player of the Year, like you mentioned, if someone never stepped foot in the Rio and managed to win Player of the Year, that would be kind of crazy or not really to speaking to the heart of what I think the WSOP Player of the Year is. So I don't know. It's an interesting kind of question. I also think that I guess that a lot of players, you know, especially that are playing a lot of the mixed games and that are that this is one of the only opportunities that they have to get into the mixed game space, are not taking the time to play the, you know, $500 or lower buy-in bracelet events online. So like, is it really indicative of like who the best player is? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's too hard to disagree with any point that I think you or I have made about this. But online events are going to be important for the future of the World Series of Poker. Let's not overdo it. I think what they've been doing, about one a week, is good. Like, next year I don't want to see an online event once every 2 or 3 days. I think then it'd be a little bit too much. So let's keep it like it is. Let's continue to grow online poker at this kind of slow and steady pace. And then I think we're all good here.
All right, well, let's talk about Joe Foresman.
Let's talk about old Joe Foresman. Right? Because, I mean, I don't know the name Joe Foresman. You don't know the name Joe Foresman.
Mm-mm.
Probably nobody watching knows the name Joe Foresman until he wins the $600 No Limit Hold'em Deep Stack Championship. That's 6,140 entries, and he wins $397,903. He wins a seat into the main event. So, like, oh, that's cool, right? You know, he's firing off in a 600. But this was his first WSOP event. This was his second live tournament ever. And he wins a World Series of Poker event, one with more than 6,000 entries. I mean, that is quite the story. He says, it was fun to play in. Once we got into the money, I was thrilled no matter what happened. I would have been happy cashing out $1,500 or $2,000. When I got to the final table today, quite frankly, I said if I finished in fifth, I don't care. It's still 100K. This is still more than anything I could have ever imagined. I mean, this is awesome. So, like, it's cool during the World Series to see these players, like, get their first bracelets, like a Steven Chidwick, for example, Ismail Bojang. But it's also really cool to see guys who, like, just kind of show up and win a tournament for life-changing money. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's so sick. It's unreal.
And I know that his runner-up, Will Givens, was probably heartbroken. He's a great player. He's a friend of mine from Colorado. Whoop, whoop.
There we go.
But again, it also shows, I mean, Will's a professional poker player. He's been playing for a long time. He travels the circuits. If I'm right, he has a bracelet already. I might be wrong. Don't listen to me anymore. But I feel like, I'm pretty sure he has a bracelet.
I think so too. I think you're right on that one. Give yourself some more credit.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't do the interview, but it did happen. But anyways, clearly a very worthy adversary, and still, you know, someone who has very little to no experience manages to come on top, and I think that's probably one of the best things about this great game we love so much, right? Yeah,
it's that anybody can do it, anybody can make it happen. You know, just kind of a sign of the tournament. Givens got it in with 10s against 4s, and Foresman flopped to 4 because that's the way he was running. But that's kind of cool. And I could see kind of from afar when that tournament was over, Givens went up to him, gave him a big hug, wasn't sour or salty about it at all. It was just kind of a nice moment. And I love the picture that PokerNews has, the winner's photo, the bracelet photo, because you can tell, like, everybody in the picture is like, what are we doing here? This is the World Series of Poker bracelet. So again, a really, really cool moment.
I love it. I just love it. And you know, when we think about, you know, what's good for the game, it's also, you know, Joe Foresman, maybe he goes back to wherever he normally lives, whether it's Vegas or the Midwest or whatever it is, and shows all of his buddies and his friends and his family and lots of people who may or may not think poker is interesting or cool or fun that, hey, there's, like, if you want to buy a lottery ticket, you might as well just come down and play some poker. Come on.
Right. It's the dream. Let's grow this game that way, you know? Well, I think that'll draw even more people to the World Series.
I see Ben Ludlow finally got in the mix, so he's clearly wandering around. No mini main yet, but let's talk. I think there's been a lot of hype, a lot of chat about the mini main. It's just kicking off today?
Yes, and so the mini main is just like it sounds. You get the same chip stack for the main event, same levels as the main event, but instead of 2-hour levels, those levels are 30 minutes. So this tournament is scheduled to finish in 2 days, but we know the turnouts that these types of events have been getting throughout the summer, so maybe we'll extend into the actual main event for the mini main event, but I'm expecting a very big turnout for this one, and I think it'll be a really popular event. I really like how the World Series put this one on the schedule right before the main, and for some people this is going to be their main, which is cool as well. Yeah,
that's definitely more in my wheelhouse. Now, this Monday's episode of the PokerNews podcast is sponsored by 888 Poker, and they also sponsor the tournament, the $888 Crazy Eights tournament, which is coming in today with its day 2. They saw, a crazy starting field, although we're just getting used to seeing numbers in the 6,000, so 4,500, what's that? They saw 4,494 total entries, which is absolutely, bananas, and there's no payouts yet, so I have to imagine that again, you can buy in until the beginning of day 2, I'm guessing.
I don't think so, but they do not have the payouts finalized yet.
They're just waiting. It's
in that event for whatever reason. But it's a lot of money. And we do have to mention, Sarah, you'll love this, Raquel Hesp in the chat. My dad is flying out tomorrow for World Series of Poker 2019. The great John Hesp, one of your all-time favorites. The man I may or may not have busted from last year's main event. Very sorry.
How could you?
Yeah, when everybody hated me.
I
don't think I actually busted him. I just think I won a really big pot off of him with my jacks against his aces.
Well, we will
flopped a jackpot. But Raquel, I hope your dad ships it this year.
Me too. We're 1,000% going to be doing something with him. He's one of my favorite stories in poker and one of my favorite gentlemen in poker. And actually, I've seen him at several 888 events. He's always a fun face to see at those events. So a big thank you to our sponsors. Of course, we'll keep track of everything for you guys as we get closer and closer to the main event and ultimately crowning our 2019 WSOP main event champion. We'll be back with you on Wednesday. I'll be back in Vegas on Saturday. Like Jeff won't be able to get rid of me. It's getting so exciting. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Anything else you want to say before I let the homies go?
Just real quick props to Bernard Lee and to Jacob, the folks at One SCF, One Step Closer Foundation. They ran their charity tournament yesterday at Aria. Great time, but more importantly, a great turnout and a lot of money raised for the One Step Closer Foundation to help benefit cerebral palsy causes. So,
okay, just tell me, who was at your first table?
Oh, my first table was great. It was Joey Ingram. Poppy was in the mix. Cheryl Hines, which is awesome. Linda Johnson, the first lady of poker. Cheryl Hines busted, and she didn't have any cash on her. And I'm like, do you want to borrow $100? I'm pretty sure you're good for it. And so I loaned Cheryl Hines, world famous actress, $100. She did pay me back, but with no interest. Pretty ridiculous.
Wow, how rich for her, right? Jeez.
Yeah. How
the
rich.
bank of Mr. Platt is just dishing it out to the celebs.
Yeah, I'm like, this is my last 100. Please pay me back immediately.
And also, so Noah Schwartz, he just won a bracelet. Good for him. But he pretty much every year gets super toasted and like gives out so much money. I think last year he single-handedly gave out at least like $10,000 in rebuys and buy add-ons for people.
Okay, it's so funny that you say that because I know that this year Sam Simmons, the president of Poker Central, went absolutely ham at his table and was just, all in blind. And then when the add-on period came around, he bought add-ons for everybody at his table, like you're saying Noah has done in the past. So
somebody's got to carry the torch,
Yeah, Frank Casella, again, was in for 18 million bullets, built up a huge chip stack, and then just bounced to go play the 10K stud high-low or something.
I love him. I just
He's the
love
best.
These guys sometimes. All right, cool. Well, congratulations to them. It's always a huge turnout and a great event, and I miss it, actually. They do it, usually they'll do it again one other time throughout the year at least, sometimes in LA, but they'll do another one in Vegas. I think this last year they did it around December. So we'll keep you guys posted as we do that. And also don't forget that we have the Poker News podcast hangout on July 8th at the Planet Hollywood.
Yes.
It's reasonable buy-in. Something maybe $150, 120 plus 30.
Yeah, 120.
Yeah, I think so. Totally reasonable. We'll be there 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I don't know.
Yeah, just come and we'll
just Google
have some cocktails.
Poker News podcast family.
Poker News podcast hangout.
I could.
Okay, this gentleman's in.
Is it Ben Ludlow?
So yeah.
Are you in your seat or are you just?
No. I think you go to table 250. Yeah. Okay. But good luck. Okay. All right.
I love when people think we work for the World Series.
What's that?
We don't have a clue.
Yeah,
right. Jeff's busy making sure people get to their tables on time. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll be with you on Wednesday, and we always appreciate it. If you guys have stories, interesting ideas, anything, send them to me at Auntie Chardonnay or at Jeff Platt. If you want to rate, and review on the iTunes, we always appreciate that. It's a way that I can show to my bosses that we are doing something very important, and that we need to continue doing this no matter what. And we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Deuces.